Which one is this? Which manufacturer?
Regular. No, c'est totally transmitted on mobile.
How'd you get the new one so quick?
Kevin and Branson were
Hey Jeff, how's it going?
Steve Salmon, right?
Yeah. I was ill last meeting, so.
Well, you're still ill? Because if you are, go away.
No. I don't. When I'm ill, I stay home.
So $30, and we're good for a year.
You got change by any chance?
I wish I did. Jerry isn't even showing up with the money box.
We better remind him.
I have postage.
Yeah, I can't answer any questions, but I'm
How
in.
about I owe you 5?
Okay, why don't I make a note?
Yeah, make a note.
That's all right. That's all right.
So I was at, the reason I got sick, I was standing in the cold in Oshawa watching tanks go flying by.
Tanks?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. We're going to do the cards and deliver the cards for the April meeting.
Yeah.
Because that way I won't hold everybody up by handwriting names on. I can do it between now and April.
No worries.
Okay.
Next year I'll get a stamp.
That's great. Steve, you are now officially a member, except for the $5. And we'll hit you up. No, don't bother today. Well, don't worry. We're a relatively trusting group, aren't we, Bill?
Says the lawyer.
So what I might, if you guys want, I could do a 5-minute video presentation of all they had. So Oshawa has an armor museum. I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that.
No, I didn't
And
know
they
that.
have an awesome collection. They have, I think,
I think that's a great idea.
right now they have over 80 pieces.
Do me a favor.
Yeah.
Send me an email.
Yeah.
Because you have my address, right?
Yeah.
Just send me an email saying that, and
I'll send you the presentation.
That's how I'm trying to keep. That's how I'm trying to keep the order. If you can send us the presentation, even better.
Yeah, I'll just do it in PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect.
We do anything. We just throw it on here, share it.
We'll set it up through Stuart. That's perfect.
They, for those that are interested, they picked up just recently
Yeah.
an M7 Priest.
Oh, neat.
Yes.
That'll be popular.
And that was neat. Yeah, that was neat to see because that's something. There's only like there's only
Frank?
A few.
a very few, yeah.
Very few
So
left.
yeah, I'll send that to you.
Grab a chair. Wow. Wow. Excellent.
I hear that a lot, eh? I finished one.
I can hear you.
Yep. Eddie. All right, we're gonna get rolling. We got a great little table for tonight. So welcome to our March meeting, guys. Dave brought his hernia with him. So welcome to our March meeting back at BCOC, and nice to be back home. We're going to discuss about meeting locations a little later in our meeting, but first things first, it's our March meeting. So for club dues, if you haven't paid your dues yet, we do e-transfer for this year. March is the deadline. Afterwards, we remove people from the mailing list. So
I got the mailing list, and so what I'll do is, as of April 1st, anyone who hasn't paid their dues, I'll remove them from the list. And if you want to come back in and join the club afterwards, you're welcome to. Just bring your $30 and you're in. Simple as that. It's just the reason we're doing it is for the last number of years, we've had a real trouble, even pre-COVID, we had real trouble managing the list of members and knowing actually who was a member and who was no longer a member. So we're trying to do it in a more logical way this year, set a deadline date. And I'm going to send an email out to those who haven't paid yet with the link to show you how to do it by e-transfer if that works for you. And also contact me and say you want to stay in the club. You don't want to have your name scrubbed on April 1st, and you'll bring your money in April. Then that's fine. That'll work fine for me too. So simple as that.
thanks, Jeff. Yes.
If they don't bring the money in April, then I'll scrub their name. Or give me an excuse. Give me a good reason. The point is, we just don't want to wind up having somebody getting a free ride for the year and then at the end of the year not paying. And that has happened in the past, not frequently. And I don't think anybody in this club is going to be like that. But we just want to honor the rest of the people who actually follow the rules and do it right.
And we shun you. That's it. We just burr.
Again, we just send the rest of them. Okay.
Nikolai comes by, says, hey, buddy, you owe money. Come now.
Okay.
So that's it for dues.
Jerry by any chance? Oh, Jerry's here.
Oh, yay.
We're looking for the 50-50 bond.
And if anyone wants to pay cash for membership, we're good to go. This has been supplied, Jerry, as part of for tonight.
Oh, yeah, we should also.
Yeah, so that was the next thing was, so we're introducing our newly minted treasurer, Bill. Yay, Mr. Webb, Mr. Webb. So far, yeah. So Bill stepped up last week, and that's me. Stepped up last week, so he's our treasurer. We're making the appropriate changes. So welcome to all the new members and old for our executive that are up here. We'll go through the bill table a little bit. We have another scintillating and exciting demonstration from the effervescent and artistic George Wray, the Velvet Fog, on masking. We've asked for demonstrations, so appreciate that, George. We'll do that after we go through our table. Before anything else, we'll do some show notes from Mr. Dawson, who came in tonight. Bill, if you want to give the crew an update.
All right. Currently, we're nailing things down. We got a couple open things we're working on. Still waiting the Fanshaws. The committee thinks that that's going to be our primary event. We're still waiting for them to get back with a quote. It seems like it might be reasonable. We're just hoping there won't be any last minute surprises. But we're leaning towards that. We're keeping Carding View up. Carding View, I can put a request in for rental 12:01 April 1st, 12:01 a.m. April 1st. And so Frank and I are going to be in touch regularly, and so we'll know ahead of time if we can kick Fanshawe off. The only other issue that we have open is somebody to help with vendors. We had somebody, but for reasons beyond our control has stepped away from it. And I'm going to be a POC on it. In other words, I'll be a name. If you guys have any vendors, whether commercial or private, give them, contact me with their information, and I'll take it from there. We have the site set up for it already. I'm going to be more active in that. I've had a few things I've been closing off personally, but I'm going to get more active in it. And so if you guys hear of anybody who wants to get a table, let me know, and we'll go from there. Other than that, that's about it. We're going to, a bunch of us are going to the Hamilton show in 2 weeks, and we're going to plaster the place with bulletins, flyers for the show. So, and I think we'll do the same for Capcom as well. Get as many people. I'm going to see if my family controller can find sufficient funds in our current account. And other than that, that's it for me.
So speaking of financial control, yeah, Heritage Con is in 2 weeks. So the first big show in our part of the world. So one of the things we had in our email was bring your bills. We get ready for that show in 2 weeks on the 26th down in Hamilton. I'm looking forward to it. So I know a bunch of us are, and we'll plaster it. And just to further on bills, yeah, we'll get a quote on Fanshawe in the next, by the end of the week or Monday, and we will be pulling the trigger on what the location is. We'll let the members know, but financially, it's not much more to use a much better facility as far as size. It's much bigger. Stuart's doing floor plans, and it's we're getting close to doubling the capacity we could do at the other location, which is kind of nice. So looking forward to that. So, and yeah, and if anyone is also interested in helping us in the committee, we still need a vendor lead. So if that's something that anyone would be interested in or has expertise, just contact Bill or any of the executive. Will be happy to provide for that. Yeah.
Right. Quickly, one other thing, on a weekly basis, I'm gonna start throwing up on different, sites, Facebook, advertising the show. But like every week, I'm gonna post on our site, go into Ottawa's, Hamilton's, just post it. Hopefully they won't be mad at me. But there we go. So feel free to tell as many people as you can. I think the flyers, PDF online.
Steve is just waiting. I was talking to
Yeah.
Steve today.
Yeah.
Hobby and Toy, and he says the only thing that he's waiting for is the name of the venue. Put it in there.
Yeah.
And we had talked about, to be determined, but if we're really close to nailing it, let's just nail it, put it in, be done.
Yeah.
So that's where he sits right. Once he's got that, he's going to print out 1 billion of them, stick them on the front window of Hobby and Toy, along with all the other shows that he's got on Hobby and Toy, and those be sprinkling them by airdrop over here.
Ed says he wants three tables. I'm sure you meant 30.
Yeah, Ed wants 30. Ed wants 30
30
tables.
tables?
Oh, look, there's the armpit.
There's the
Perfect,
armpit.
perfect.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go. Oh, hang on. He's rapidly trying to unmute himself. So
I'm just moving this. Okay.
sorry, 60 tables, maybe.
Are you talking now? Yeah, he wants 60 tables.
He wants
Perfect.
60 talking. No, that's fine. He says he wants 3. Just a quick note from Ian, who's the head judge at Heritage Con. As always, they are looking for people to judge. If you're able to, please. No, but what happens is they
double.
come down and help us. So just remember that we do sponsor each other's show, but if you do want to help judging, please let the IPMS Hamilton people know when you get there. They are looking for a ton of judges, and again, they come down and help us.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, are you just referring to judging?
We've already got IPMS Ottawa. We've
Okay.
sponsored 3 of theirs, and so that stuff, that's all starting, all the different, right? And some of you may have seen that Welland County's got theirs advertised for the day after CapCon. So they just posted theirs out. Yeah, all you,
Quick question. You must have, we've never been to one of these big shows before.
Yeah.
How does it?
Free money.
Free money. That's what everybody says. My son's already telling me, Dad, how much can I spend? So it's
Then double it.
yeah. And then get mom involved. So
triple it, right? Triple it.
And when they write receipts up, push it. Tell them to put down half of what you actually.
Well, actually, for slip chart, I'll actually try to take the controller.
How does it work at the show for judging on? Can we take models just to display, or is it just for judging?
it's dependent upon each show. We can look into that and let you know, but they usually have both. A lot of, like in the States, it's a lot of guys will go just to display their models and stuff, and then how to enter the competition. If your son wants to enter, for example, most junior categories are usually really reduced or no cost, right? Because we're trying to promote the hobby for young folks. So for someone like him, it'd be a great opportunity because he meets his peers at his age and what they can do, and he can, see what it's like.
Google Heritage Con 2023, you'll find their webpage. They'll have all of the criteria.
Or give me a minute and I printed everything out and I'll give it to you.
The far table was all display only.
Yeah.
We normally do have.
Does that get paid to display, or is that free?
No, you just got to pay to get in.
Pay to get in?
Yeah.
It's a great fundraiser.
And that's the key with Heritage Con, the pay to get in is pay to get into the museum rate, and that's how they raise funds.
Yeah. And CapCon is the same. It's at the War Museum. You pay to get in the War Museum. That's your entrance into the show for that day. That's in Ottawa. That's
When is Wellington?
day after CapCon.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Saturday, Sunday thing. All right, so that's the show news. Thanks, Bill. And we're always looking for input and support, so thank you very much. And I don't know if it's because of Heritage Con, we have a nicely filled table here. So we go through through that a little bit. That makes sense,
Now,
or?
how, can you, for the people who are online, can you tell them how to get the picture?
Yeah, so basically the people online, I've already sent the chat out to the, I've sent the chat out to the Facebook group. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and show the pictures I took as we always do.
Well, then,
So you just hand out the microphone.
You go down the list, you'll find the
as well go
picture.
first. I'll-
well, I'll go first then. So I brought in my, I made an Aoshima 1/700 scale Nagato. I think it's the 43 version of it. It's my first ship, 1/700 scale. Highly recommend it if your life is happy and you have meaning. Build one of these. It's straight out of the box. I've never built a ship. I've never built something this small as far as scale goes. It was a great experience. I don't know if anyone built them. Yoshima's a great kit. Thank you, Blap, for the kits, because I bought this off. I think we did a trade. Yeah, planes for boats, and it worked out well, I think, for both of us. So this was pretty cool. Straight out of the box, Tamiya paints. There's really only, I think, 4 or 5 colors on the thing. No photo etch because I'm not crazy. No easy line because, again, I didn't want to start drinking. But it was just to try something new, right? Just to expand. I did a Gundam at Christmas time. That was kind of cool, like Jeff's doing right now. I started a plane. It's looking embarrassingly poor, but I'm still working on that. So it's just kind of fun to take that skill set and kind of branch out a little bit and move forward. So that's the Nagato, which was a cool little ship. Next is the Hurricane.
All right, this is the old 1968 issue Rebel Hurricane. Then it was reissued as a tropical fighter in 1986. So that's that one. I bought it for $25, so I said, okay, good opportunity, lots of fun. But then when I started to read what it was in the box, and when I saw it, well, so I removed the wheel bay. I built the flaps. I scratch built everything inside the wheel bay. I did all the interior, all the tubular structure. It's all scratch built. The propellers were reprofiled. The nose was made from another model. The colors, the markings are all painted on, thanks to Duncan, who taught me the technique, because the kit decals are crap. And then the other interesting thing is that I found somebody who did the research on the spaghetti border of attack and nose of the Hurricanes of 274 Squadron. And it seems to be that instead of being painted in a light sand color, it actually was the aluminum color of the paint of the plane. And all the wiggles were painted using the red and blue from the insignia. And then the other thing is that this plane was flown by the top scorer Argentinian fighter pilot from World War II. So he had 9 kills. He became the air attaché for South America in '44. And then he was the director of Air Canada for Latin America. And when he retired, he went to live to Spain. And the other thing I want to bring up is this month's issue of Air Force magazine, the one from the Air Force official. And there is an article, an interview that I made with a fellow colleague from 427 Wing here, Air Force Wing. And it's our interview to Tom Hennessy, the gentleman who walked 100 miles last summer to bring awareness about the homeless veterans. So there's an article, an interview that we made to him, lots of pictures from him in Malta in 1944 and there. That's all.
That's right next to you. Man is up.
That's a 148 scale Magna model Blackburn Firebrand. And when I purchased that kit, I went hunting for a good bit of reference. So I had heard it was a good kit, and I wanted to put some effort into building it. And when I started, I ran into I wouldn't say problems, some hassles, mainly with the dimples in the resin. You have number one. This is just a small section of what I encountered. There we are. That's one, as you can see, just one small section of all the the air bubbles that were in the surface. Easily 75% of the model was covered like that. So after spending, as Jeff can relate to, umpteen hours, putty and sanding, I put the book of reference away and said it's going to be more or less out of the box. So it is. Yeah, even the torpedo clutch is incorrect, but I said it was out of the box. After that point, it's out of the box. But it did help me improve my masking and painting skills. Oh, there's another picture there. All I really scratch built was the cannons, cleaned up the landing gear, and the rest of it is out of the box. And I think it did a reasonable painting job on it. I saw very limited service because they could not fix some of the aerodynamic problems, such as the tail is offset to starboard, which is, if you look at it head on, you think it's, I made a mistake, but no, it's offset like that, which actually, as the induced drag slowed it down, has some handling problems. So they went through a process of, well, what happens if you cant the engine up to the 1 o'clock position by a couple of degrees? Well, that solved one problem, but created some others. So they said, well, how about we go up at the 11 o'clock position by 1 or 2 degrees? Well, that solved the problems going up to the other area, but created some other ones. So they counted the engine up, and it solved some other problems, but created other ones. And they said, well, let's forget this and move on. So that's also why it's very clean. None of them had a lot of hours on. It just didn't fly straight. Yes, thank you. To my eye, that is a handsome, manly aircraft. Just didn't work. I don't think it's the narrowness. I think it's the slab sided. I'm not an aerodynamist, but I think it's the slab sidedness that causes it. Oh, to me, you're not British.
Yeah, no, it's, what I mean is, it looks like it's his idea. All right.
When I saw that must have been a really good plane. Yeah, I still like.
Yes.
I can always.
Right next to CL 49.
42.
42 miles.
52.
52. I thought up by 3.
Yeah, the silver one with the orange stripes, that was a kit I purchased from Peter at a swap meet a number of years ago. Didn't have a canopy, but so it went on the shelf waiting for a canopy to show up. And finally I bought that Pavla canopy and resin interior, and that was sort of what made it happen. I always wanted to build a model of this plane because this is the only B-47 that flew in non-US service, and it flew for Canada. They shipped it up an old B-47B, I think it was. I'd seen a lot of service. Strapped a pod on the back for the Avro Orenda Iroquois engine. This is the only time it actually flew, and tore the twisted the plane. The thrust was so strong that they could fly basically on that one engine. They twisted the frame, and at the end of the test program, when the Avro was canceled, the U.S. just took the plane back, flew it to Davis, Monthan, and scrapped it. So it's pretty cool. It's a Canadians destroyed an American state-of-the-art bomber in 1950, something or other. But I built this because I was curious. I wanted to try scratch building more than I had in the past. And so the engine and the pod is all scratch built from pieces of 1/32 inch under fuselage gas tanks that have been sectioned, and then a penny roll or a dime roll that I found that seemed to be the right size. And then I wanted to build the engine, and I found a highlighter that would fit inside that. So I sliced that into pieces and used the top of the highlighter, looked like an afterburner. So I glued it on the back, and that sort of can't see it, but it's inside there. And then I just glued a whole bunch of stuff on it and to make it look like an Orinda Iroquois engine. And that was kind of fun. And then I wanted to try to do the stressed skin panel effect on for these planes, natural metal planes. And I came up with a way just to glue a whole bunch of styrene strip with a slight gap in between them, and used that as a mask and just sprayed light through it all the way from front to back and under and around and everything. And it came out pretty well. I'm pretty pleased with it. I wanted to get kind of a worn aluminum look. Parts of it are too shiny, and parts of it are not. But all in all, I think it kind of works. I've written an article for RT, and it'll show up sometime later in the year or next year or God knows when. But I mean, it was fun. It was nice, and it was an enjoyable experience. And for an ancient kit, this thing was originally molded in 1968. Pretty good. It's a pretty good kit. It's pretty simple, but it's pretty good. So.
Scale.
Pardon? 172.
Sorry. Okay, the Hotchkiss.
Nice.
Good. Oh, he's got it all. So I had a bunch of unfinished kits at the end of the year last year. So I then decided that, well, the best thing to do is to buy a new one and start it. And so this is I started this as part of my Christmas break. It's the Tamiya R35 Renault tank. It's a relatively new kit. I think it's 2020, and it's a Tamiya kit. So it was just gorgeous to build. There are a couple of quirky things that they simplified, but overall, I quite enjoyed it. The painting was a real lesson given the weird camouflage it has. But the only other thing is he had the option of including that figure. And normally I don't like to do figures too much. But actually, I thought it helped that tank because it's kind of cool to see how actually small it is. But anyway, it's a Tamiya kit, so it went together gorgeous. And I don't think I had to add any real extra detail whatsoever. But it's primarily, I didn't weather it that much because they didn't last that long in World War II. But the most of the wet weathering you do see is with pigments and a little bit of oils. But other than that, that's it.
How did you do the borderline for the black between the various colors?
That actually was, I originally tried, I went to Bijan's and I got a pen that I thought would work really well.
Yeah.
And it did, it worked just about perfectly. And then I started to put the decals on, or actually I just tried to I was putting on a varnish coat, and the liquid of the varnish coat was like washing away those stripes. So the
Oh.
pen I got was water soluble. So that wasn't a great thing. So I had to wash it all off. And I started out with just a repeatograph pen and did it with that. So they're a little thinner than they should be, but I wasn't going to go back and try and go over them 2 or 3 times.
Oh.
So, but it was just with a pen. That was by far by that time I was getting tired of the multicolor camouflage and masking. And so I wasn't going to go into too much difficulty trying to put the black stripes on, but
Well, it looks great.
yeah, it's cool.
I have a Soma that's not painted because I'm afraid to start doing
Yeah.
that.
Oh, the best masking stuff I used for that was the black stuff that I think it's
Yeah, by
AK Interactive.
Yeah.
It's really weird to deal with, but it works like gangbusters and there's no residue.
Perfect. All right, next, everyone's favorite scale architect.
Hello, yes, working on another 1/72nd scale medieval building. And came up with a good technique to do the worn stucco look for the walls of the building. And all the timber framework you see on there is all foam. that has been textured with a small wire brush. And the curved bits of those timber frames are just, the foam just bent around. I used a Vallejo paint bottle to bend them around to form them a little bit and put them in place. And the shingles I did, there are strips of shingles with about 25 shingles per strip. I haven't counted yet how many shingles are on there, but quite a few. But a heck of a lot easier than my earlier ventures with doing individual shingles, where you get up into the thousands. So the most difficult part with that was doing the roofs over the windows, because there's multiple angles to all converging at the peak of it. It nearly drove me nuts. I almost put it in the bin. But anyway, still got to do all of the door openings and everything in the base of the building, and cut open the window openings and everything, and do the painting on the stonework, and then it'll be done. And I've got 3D printed windows for all the windows in it. So I think by next meeting it'll be done. I'm hoping to bring it to Heritage Con in a diorama with my KV2 tank that I finished last month. So we'll see.
I'm just going to skip over to Cam. Cam brought his usual array of a division with him.
Yeah, this is my work in progress, latest addition to my Soviet Army. It is three M30 122 millimeter howitzers and one D1 152 millimeter howitzers, one ZIS 42 half truck, and two ZIS 6 trucks, which is basically the 10-ton truck instead of the 5, which is ZIS 5. So these are really old. Well, I don't, they're not that old kids, but I got these about 20 years ago, and I found them on a website that was selling a bunch of TST kits for about $5 a piece, and I got a whack of them back then. So I would not recommend these kits to anyone. They are very frog-like. Way too many pieces for such small kits. A lack of anchor points for fitting. You've got to try and guess where the piece goes based on bad drawings. A lot of pieces don't fit, and it actually shows you in the drawing that you need to cut this bit of the piece off in order to get it to fit. So a number of pieces got omitted when they busted. And of course, there's a whole bunch of teeny tiny little pieces with 4 or 5 injection points on them. Like, why do you need that many injection points for one teeny little piece? And so, you know, a lot of the, like all of the drive axles got omitted, the steering columns got omitted and replaced in place of plastic rod. I just substituted because they were basically weren't even rod at all. They were just flat pieces with a giant amount of, you know, flashing on the side. So, but the larger looking pieces, the guns, the truck boxes, and those pieces were relatively good and well molded. So they ended up looking actually quite well. I did some scrap built benches in the back of the 2 trucks. I made up the guns themselves. There's 4 guns in total, and they come complete with everything that you may need to make both 152 and 122. So basically, I have a whole bunch of spare parts left from the gun kits that I might find a use for. And there's also a bunch of spare parts left in variants of 3 or 4 different trucks. So, you know, these guys have made a bunch of different vehicles using the same molds and just putting extra parts on each for different vehicle modifications. I also have a set of KV1A, KV1B, KV1C, KV1E, KV2, KV85, KV122 from these guys. And inside of the boxes, they're basically all the same kit, right? Because they include all the parts to make all those different variations, and it's just different box art. Which is kind of cool, good way. But the half track over there was actually missing 4 pieces of track to, to finish the entire length of track that's supposed to go around. And I know that I didn't lose any of them. So I had to make some out of just plastic card. Anyway, these are pretty bad. But I kind of enjoyed making them. Like, I get how Adam feels with the frogs and all that. And it's a challenge. And basically, you know, it's a wargaming model. And all I got to do is make it look like a truck or a gun, really. So, yeah. Anyway, these are ready for painting now. I've left the cab of the truck. I'm going to be leaving it off to paint the inside. And until I can get a figure to put in as a driver, I asked my 3D printing guy and he wasn't able to find anything for me. So I'm going to try and modify a few old US Marines that I have to sit inside the cab of the truck as pseudo Soviet drivers. And then they're going on the next Friday. The guns and the trucks are going on the war game table. So, yeah. Hopefully. I get them finished. Anyway, that's it for my stuff.
Nice, Cam. Yep. Always fun. We're gonna do the CF-18s. Well, we're gonna get there. This is just, see, I'm trying to be efficient.
Okay, again, new to this, after 30, I kind of did some math here just in my head while we're talking here, and it's been 33 years since I last did my first Hornet, and mine's on the far side. My son, a pair of Hornets, are a father-son team. My son wants to talk about his, so I'll pass it off to him, but so we did them in collaboration with each other. 148 Revel kits. Mine's the VF 141 top hatters off the, I believe it's the Nimitz. I can't fully remember. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos on the squadron of the top hatters. So this is my first build after probably, or second build, I guess, after 33 years getting back into the hobby. So I'm getting used to all the technical jargon, the names, the paints, the methods. I think my last model I didn't even paint. It was just decals and I didn't even paint the tires. So getting into the detail work and learning all this about airbrushing and all that's been quite interesting over the last month and a half since I've joined you guys. So again, welcome to be here, and trying to get my son involved with this has been a lot of fun for us to bond together, and trying to teach the little guy patience has been my #1 forte here, and it's been interesting. I'm getting a look, yes. So looking forward to go to Hamilton here with him in 2 weeks, and like I said, the pockets are going to have to be deep to get him another couple kits. He's already been telling me the list of 10 kits he wants to find already, so it's going to be fun. Yeah. So whoever, again, thank you for whoever brought in some kits there for my son here. He says thank you very much, but he'll be coming over to see you. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Dave, thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. No worries. Awesome. Perfect. Thank you.
The kit that you kind of see on the screen right there is the one of mine, and it's not 100% done. I have to do some decal work on it, and I have to do some more detailing so the lines pop out more like my dad's, and I have to do like a shiny coat on it, and the landing gears were like more of a particular challenge because like the doors, they were a bit hard to fit since they were so tight together, which is a good thing, I think, but it was all fairly good. And I was doing some research on the Hornet last night, I believe, and I learned that the F-18 Hornet is a fairly older aircraft that I didn't really know how old it was. Still don't know the number, but it's been a very nice serving aircraft for the military. And I learned that Canada doesn't have a Super Hornet, but the most fun I had on my model was doing the landing gear bay. And I made the lines and the wires pop really much with some detailer and an actual modeling pencil. And if you can see the small F-22 in the back, that is just a project that I started on. And I'm like, I actually kind of look of the kind of like faded look that I did on it. And I'm like, it was just like a gimmick that I fought, and I thought it looked kind of cool, so I decided to well, do it like that. And I enjoyed doing that, and that's kind of it.
Good job. Next is Whoopum Gundam style. Well, I'm going back. I'm just
Oh,
trying to be
boy,
efficient.
it's all
That's
over the place. All right. I can't follow this stuff. Yeah. Well, that hurts. Okay, so that's my Gundam. That is a master grade, which means it's an absolutely gorgeous kit. I don't know how old it is. It's not very old, but it was from a Build Fighters series, which is where Bandai decided they could sell more kits, that they retooled some existing kits and had a show about kids building them. It works like a charm. The kids on the show love them, so I think that was pretty successful. So they sell a lot of them in Japan. But to be honest, the models are fantastic because many times it's a retool of a really, really nice kit with a little bit of a stylistic variation. And I found the guys who redesigned these things really did a nice job. So what I've done is, because the Wing Gundam series was one of the first series of Gundams I built back in the late 90s, I wanted to sort of create a new set of them. My old ones are looking pretty sad and they're very old and yellowed, and I've gotten better, thankfully, since then. So I've been buying up the master grade wing kits, but I don't like the Kotoki version of the Wing Zero because I think it looks like a clown and it's overdone. I don't like the one with the angel wings for the same reason. And the other master grade wing looks just like the old one. There's no redesign at all. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to be missing the main mech. That sucks. But this Build Fighters kit is a redo of the wing, and it's stylistically similar but quite different. So I was really excited by that. Now, originally that kit comes molded in beige and green and red. And it's supposed to be the Italian flag, but I didn't know the Italian flag had beige in it. So I really don't know what that was all about. But anyways, I looked past that silliness and some of the other parts of the kit that were a little over the top. I thought I can make this work. So in the meantime, between getting it for that and actually getting it built, they at Bandai had the same thought and came out with that style of kit in the red, white, and blue, like the old wing. But it was a P Bandai. P Bandai means premium Bandai. We can't get them in Canada. They're very, very expensive. And it was wrong. Their color separation, because it was just a straight palette swap, they just took the green, made it blue, took the beige, still don't get it, made it white, and that's fine, but the colors are in the wrong spot if you're trying to do a wing. So I'm like, I don't have to pay expensive prices, and I can make mine look actually correct. So I had a lot of fun with it. I reworked the shield. I won't bore you with all the details, but it had this giant spike on it. It was kind of dumb. So I fixed it up a lot. I modified the gun a little bit, changed some colors around, but by and large, it's a very painless kit to build. Yeah, it's got beautiful high heels. If you're a shoe fan, you'll enjoy that. It's a little questionable, but the pilot in the show was known as the Italian Dandy, and I'm going to leave it at that, and we'll just move on. But it went together just like a dream. All the big Bandai kits are great. I finished it by hand, as always. I hand paint mechs because I enjoy the therapy of it, but it is airbrushed with a flat coat. So it looks like it's been airbrushed, even though it hasn't been. There's really nothing that special about it. I didn't have to do anything to it too wild because it was nice, which is unusual for me. But if anybody ever has a chance and they're not sure about, a mech, if you get one of the newer master grades, you really won't regret it. They're engineering marvels, and they will go together without a whole lot of fuss. So I'll pass this back to you.
The Invisible Man, right here. We can see you.
Yeah, you can see it too, I hope.
Yeah.
So mostly I brought a figure in because I did get the impression that this was a pretty vehicle heavy group of people. I thought it might be nice just to have it, shake it up a little bit, do something a little bit different. I actually made that model probably about 3 years ago, right when the pandemic started. It's the Mobius version, but I think they used the old molds from the Aurora kit from the 60s and 70s. Wasn't a bad fit together. The jacket didn't go together all that well, is my recollection. So that took a little bit of work to do. If I were to do it over again, I would probably age and weather the clothing a bit more than I did, but I didn't do a whole lot to it. I did notice I didn't paint the back of the cabinet, but that's for a couple of reasons, mostly because at home I've built like a diorama wall that goes with it, so you don't see the back of it anyway. I just didn't bring that with me. If I could figure out a way to do all the clear glass and not show the seams as much, I would, but I haven't figured that out yet. So that's one thing I'm not crazy about. I also didn't like all the empty glass, so I ended up filling them with things. So it's either paint or it's colored glue. And on the shelf, it could be turmeric, thyme, some oregano in some of them. Various spices that I put in there, I thought I could fit in the bottle. And then the labels are actually all NASCAR decals. So if you actually were to read them, none of them would make any sense, but I chose smaller ones that weren't obviously STP or FRAM or anything like that. So I put all that on there myself as well, so that wasn't part of it. But I did really enjoy making the kit. My girls always preferred when they were younger that I do figures as opposed to NASCAR, which is the other things I normally do. So I can't remember which one of them picked that, but a lot of the figures I built were the ones that they would pick out and want me to do. So I can't remember who picked that particular one. But the reason it's one of my favorites, though, is I do quite like the way the hand appears to be floating, that's holding the cloth on the left side of his head. So, I mean, it is completely in air. So I did think that was kind of interesting. But overall, I love those types of models. There's a lot to them from a building point of view, and then the painting is always a little bit different. Again, I can only compare it to NASCAR because I don't do any of the military stuff. So NASCAR is a pretty straight paint. You put a color on and you're done, and you go to the next part and you put a color on and you're done. Whereas with something like this, with the flooring and stuff, you can do a little bit of dry brushing to get some of the graining in, and some of the other wood, and even the jacket and stuff, you can do a bit. So yeah, it's all plastic. So, well, there's a piece of it that's got a fair amount of putty in it, I believe, because like I say, couldn't get things to line up quite right. But between the putty and a little bit of carving with the knife, it turned out not too badly in the end. And I was going to age it some more recently, but I can't get at it now that it's glued on there and up against stuff. And I suppose I could just pry the feet off slowly and re-glue it, but I'm not going to do it. But anyway, so that's that. I quite enjoyed it. So I love those kind of models. So yeah, that's it.
The cars, who brought in the automobiles? There we go.
Okay. Thank you, fellas. I'm new at this. When I was probably, 13 years old, I did in the hobby, probably like a lot of you guys. I got out of it, probably another 30 years, but I got back into it. And this kid here was started by my son. Probably the 57 Chevy about 30 years ago was just in the plastic bag. So I thought, well, I'll start building that. It's been quite a journey because just for putting that chrome trim on and alignment, things that I never paid attention to before, the details can drive you nuts. I painted it twice, 3 times. It's still not where I want it to be. I've made mistakes on it, but I did get it finished. But doing that chrome and the stuff that's out there is just incredible. But I did enjoy building it and finishing it. So it's a learning curve for me. The 61 Chevy, it's not finished. It's been painted twice now. I couldn't quite make up my mind that I had trouble with the paint, which I'm learning, which hopefully I can learn from you guys. That's a really nice kit to build. And for the first time, I've never done this before, I wired the engine, which was quite a treat, and put the covers on the spark plugs. And I like the whole bottom. I completely detailed the whole bottom, but I must say I'm really enjoying it. And just as a side note, I have the Big T monogram Big T I built when I was 13 years old, and my mom, bless her heart, she was all in parts and she must have got tired of dusting it. And I had it downstairs and I opened it up, it was all there, but in pieces. Some stuff I had to scratch build. But you know, it was wonderful putting that old kit back together after all those years. And it looks great. It really looks great. I thought to myself, just for being a kid, and I can remember my brother when I bought it. I worked at Dundas Hobbies in London, I can remember. And that kit came in and it just blew me away. And I bought that kit. I think it was like 20 bucks or 19.99 something back then. And my brother comes home, he says, "What are you going to eat?" And I said, because my mom and dad went on holidays, but I wanted this kit. So I used most of my food money to buy this kit. And he's blasting the hell out of me. But I said, you know what? And I think back, it's the best thing I ever did. I really enjoyed it. And you know, it's so nice to see you guys all taking an interest because it's a nice hobby. And I didn't realize there was so many different avenues. And it's great to see this. And I find it really neat because I go downstairs, my hobby room, and learning, and something doesn't work, so you try it again. Or I've been able to talk to some of the guys in the hobby and say, well, try this or try that, you know. And so anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. That's it.
Thank you very much. And then there's a couple of wee little planes in there. Oh, that would be you.
I've been working on a 4-engine bomber, which I like doing the heavies from World War II. But I wanted something a little simpler that only had one propeller rather than 4, and extra wheels, et cetera, et cetera. So I worked on these two kits. The Messerschmitt is the Tamiya kit. It's the BF-109 G6. I was really, really amazed at how good this kit is for the scale. The cockpit interior details are small, lots of little parts considering the scale. So the cockpit needed nothing but some paint and some weathering. The fuselage just fit right together. I hardly had to use any putty to seal up seam issues, and the wings just snapped in place. They didn't even need glue, and there was no joint between fuselage and wing. That's not filled. That's just a tight fit. It's an amazing engineered kit. It's straight out of the box. I didn't add anything to it except some wire brake lines on the landing gear. This particular plane, I used the decals from the kit. It is from the Luftwaffe JD-54, which was stationed primarily in the Eastern conflict. This particular fighter wing had the second highest kill total of all the Luftwaffe fighter wings in World War II, downing something, I think the references said they downed over 9,000 aircraft. Now, the majority of those would have been Soviet, so they weren't exactly up against the state-of-the-art fighters, but the number's astonishing. Over 9,000 kills by this fighter wing. I really, really wanted, it was last month, Duncan brought in a plane with this incredible mottling on it. And I said, I'm going to do this mottling. He told me how to do this. Well, it didn't work.
Liar, liar.
He told me there was something wrong with the airbrush. I don't know. So it's the operator. I know it's the operator. I tried the modeling 2 or 3 times. It always looked like a clown's face with round dots. So I just, in a moment of sheer frustration and using Duncan's name in vain, I just started spraying the fuselage with the 2 colors and just created big blotches. And then I took my under fuselage color, the blue, to a fine spray and just started doing squiggles randomly all over the side of the fuselage, which sort of covered the dark spots, created some mottling. It's faded. doesn't jump out at you, but I thought it's good enough. So that's the measurement. Next to it is an Airfix 172 FW 180. This 190. I'm sorry. Thank you. I used some aftermarket decals on it, which depicted the Fighter Squadron 300 in Germany, which was dedicated to protecting Germany against the four-engine bombers, which were pummeling Germany in 43 and 44. This plane is depicted in 44. The pilot had the side armor removed around the cockpit, which was a standard on that particular model. And he also removed the two fuselage guns, which I drilled out and removed from the model. This particular fighter wing was nicknamed and was referenced as the Ram Jaegers. They all had an oath that they would do whatever it took to empty the sky of Allied bombers over Germany. And if it meant close in combat, they did it. And if it meant ramming a bomber, they did it. And there are a number of documented ramming instances where the German pilot parachuted safely afterward and just got another plane. So I thought that was a very interesting history behind this. This particular pilot, Hubert Ernst, flew and in this squadron against enemy bombers. His official record says he downed 15 heavies in his career before he was shot down and seriously injured. His family wrote about him, and apparently, according to the internet, they said he shot down 21 heavies versus the 15 that he's credited. Both were good builds using a combination of Tamiya paints and Valero model color for spraying. A little bit of chipping solution on the props to do some chipping effects, and the rest was just done with oil weathering and a few pastels.
Good. So that's our table, and as pointed out, right, this is what's great about this club. There's just such a great variety of what we've got here. And that kind of segues me to our last thing before we do take a break to do our draw. And George, I'll just come back. Yeah, I'll see you in a sec, Flap. We talked last meeting about doing a build. I know we have our 1-year build that we do every year, but we also talked about doing builds where, you know, maybe something small within the group for over a 2-3 month period, summer build. And so that was brought up at the last meeting for people to ruminate on. And it just so happened that we then got an email from IPMS Nationals, which is why I'm going to turn over to Kerry.
Okay, thanks, Frank. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kerry Trainer. I'm the chapter and member liaison for IPMS Canada. I'm also a longtime member of this chapter. For those of you who are not familiar with IPMS Canada, this is where the commercial comes in. IPMS Canada is the national branch of the International Plastic Modeler Society, which is truly an international organization. We have many attributes that we can offer to its members. We actually have a fairly large membership here within the chapter, which we are appreciative. And having dealt with, just going to a point that was made earlier by this gentleman over here, having dealt with a number of all of the chapters over the last 10 or 11 years now, I can safely say that IPMS Canada is probably one of the best chapters with regards to the number of members, the variety of types of models that get built, and just the overall general congeniality that goes on and the helpfulness. So I think we should all be thankful that we belong to such a great chapter. Now to get on to what was I was supposed to talk about. That was the commercial, by the way. Well, there was one other thing. The modeling community would also like to thank Jeff Halen for doing the B47 because now we have aftermarket material because he scratch built everything. So if you're interested in building that model kit, you can get it from Belcher Bits, right, Jeff? Thank you, Jeff. Okay, so speaking of model contests, IPMS Canada, previous to COVID, we always sponsored Best Canadian Subject down at the IPMS USA Nationals. This was a kind of an off the record. It wasn't a formal part of the IPMS USA Nationals, but it was something we did. And Canadian modelers would get together on Saturday morning. We'd go around the model room. We'd select the best Canadian subjects, and then we would come down to a vote. And the winner would get a mention in the RT, which is our quarterly, as well as a very nice beer stein. Well, then COVID hit, and we haven't been able to do it for a couple of years. And during that time, we ruminated as to what we should do. And what we came down to, and I put forth the idea that we should be bringing the best Canadian subject back to Canada and offer it to modelers within Canada who, for the most part, build Canadian subjects, not exclusively, of course. But so what we have done is we started this project this year where we're offering awards and membership into IPMS Canada to each of the chapters who wish to participate. So as an example, if IPMS London wishes to participate and do a Best Canadian Subject award competition, the award would be, we give out, it's a fairly nice medal as well as a one-year membership to IPMS Canada to the winner. I believe the email contains all the rules. I'm not going to go over all the rules. That can be discussed if you guys decide to move forward on it. But each participating chapter will get this. And then what we do afterwards is the only thing we ask in return is that you send us the photos of the participating models, the winner, not only the winning model, but the winning modeler, perhaps standing beside Frank, the traditional shaking the hands, that kind of stuff. And then what we do is we publish that in our digital newsletter and we promote the chapter itself. All right, so I'm hoping that IPMS London wants to get involved. It's going to be an annual thing, we're hoping. And we're hoping that I've already heard from a good number of chapters who are all eager to get involved in it. So that's a positive thing. And what that does then is it brings it back from the United States, where traditionally the winner was an American, which was not what we really were aiming for. But it's bringing back the support back to the Canadian modelers and to the chapters. All right, so hopefully you guys show interest in it and we can get it through. Any questions? That's correct. So the national branch exec is really good at offloading responsibility. So what we do is we leave it to the chapter entirely. So as to whether or not they hold the competition, and if they do decide to hold the competition, then the contest is within the membership of IPMS London. You do not have to be a member of IPMS Canada. We'd love you to be, but if you're not, that's okay too. So the chapter sets the date as to when it's to be complete. They do all the judging. So whether they do it by guesswork or they do it by blind vote, whatever, it's completely up to the chapter. And then once the winner is announced, then Frank contacts me, sends me the photos, sends me a little blurb. We put it into BT. IPMS London becomes famous worldwide, and we go from there. All right. The only thing that IPMS Canada is involved in is providing the award and making sure that the winner gets on the registry for their membership. Yeah, so the idea here is, for instance, if you guys decide to go ahead with this and you say, okay, well, by December of 2023, the Best Canadian Subject Award has to be complete. That build has to start fresh. You can't bring out something from last year or something you just finished. Yeah, yeah. But you could build another one, and there's a new resin set for it.
You could twist it back.
Anyways, yeah. And the subject matter does not necessarily have to be military. As long as there is Canadian content or association. So please. That might be a bit of a stretch. But,
Lawyers, they always looking for the angle.
oh yeah, I live with one, so I know that. So that's the intent. So it can be military, non-military, aircraft. Canada has a fairly good space agency. I don't know, like the Canada Space Arm, whatever. Figures. You go from there. Bill? Is his name on the aircraft? There needs to be a direct association. So if he flew an F-86 Sabre and his name is actually on the aircraft, then that would count. Yeah, yeah. We've been down this road before, Jeff.
The rules, like you've sent us, we received.
We have sent the rules to all of the chapters, and if you guys decide to go ahead with it, then the rules will be laid out, and I'm sure you would distribute them either digitally or otherwise, and that you would have to just follow those rules.
And it's timely because I brought this up at last meeting, so I'd like to do it like maybe for a summer build by the end of August, right? Have it, I mean, that's more than enough time to get something done and keep it wide open. I think it'd be
Speak
great.
for yourself.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm going to close off by saying if you have any questions about IPMS Canada in general, please don't hesitate to approach me. I'd be happy to answer all of your questions. Thanks, Frank, for the time.
So yeah, so we talked about it. It's not, we could look at a time frame, but that was something I'd suggested for the club to think about. I'd like to do it, especially when Kerry's email showed, because he wasn't at the last meeting and the email showed up about a week later, and I thought it was pretty what's that word? There was some synchronicity going on or whatever that timeliness. Anyway, it was nice. So I'd like to. We already have our end of year build, so we've got something for December, but maybe a shorter time frame. And speaking of shorter time frame, if anyone's interested, IPMS Ottawa just reached out because I know Dave and I said yes. They're doing their Easter Blitz build, which is 4 days, start to finish, to build a kit. Well, I did it last year. Actually, Dave and I came first and second, I think. You were first, I was second.
I was second.
There we go.
Like
Maybe
I
the
was the deck gun first.
deck gun, schmeck gun. So, but we've taken part. It's a lot of fun. So if anyone's interested, just check out IPMS Ottawa. They've got the link up. So that's a great weekend build. I am trying to coerce Eggsy and Colley to build something that they'll never finish, just to keep the trend alive. So, but yeah, this all Canadian build. If the club's interested, I don't know if we want to do a show of hands. If people would be interested in this, I know I would be. Yeah. Don't. Yeah. So.
It might be a good idea if you want to change your build.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Well, then, you know what? I mean, it's pretty easy. Whether you want in or not, we'll just do it. We'll hold it. We'll send out the rules, the instructions. We'll make it for the end of the year, Canadian subject, and have some fun with it. So I think, and there was a few hands up, so we'll have at least a good dozen or so. We'll twist some arms. Yeah, I believe so. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And then last thing before our little break, Lops wants to.
Oh, I've got some free kits here. So these are starter kits. No guarantees if all the parts are there or not, but the armor that has already been picked up by the vultures was from the collection of Don Van Dusen that I picked up, and I knew I'd never finish them. I tried to build that rifle models tank, and armor is not my thing. There's no pleasure in it whatsoever for me. So, and then there's some automotive stuff left here, some starter cars. Again, no guarantees all the parts are there, but if you want to pick something up and maybe finish it, they're free. So have at it.
Thanks, Dave.
Yep.
Yes, Mike? Any vacuum form in there?
Sorry, no back.
Thank, yeah, so we're gonna take a 15-minute break. We're gonna have Bill's here with our 50-50 draw, and we'll start up with Mr. Ray.
Okay. I'm going to, all right, Andrew Jones. John. Member since 2023. We have some people member since.
Kevin, if you can hear me, can you say a few words?
Sure, I can hear you fine. Does that help?
Thanks.
I can hear you too, Stuart.
All right, and Mike, you still hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. I was just trying to see if I can find a way to amplify the speaker for our people in here, but I was getting feedback, so just set it back. Thanks, guys.
No problem.
N60 2J2.
Okay. Oh, and your phone number, the one you use.
Yeah, call my 519-681-8335. Or
I mean, that makes sense.
Well, we'll just go with that one. So we don't have to do that. It's just for direction.
So you want my email?
Your email is?
Yeah, it's a long one. It's John, J-O-H-N-S, Drapery, track, at Rogers.com.
Nice work, by the way. That's good. Really good.
John's Drapery Track.
No, but you know what?
You got it.
What's your name?
Jeff. You had good taste. Tell me I have to do it.
That's reassuring.
See, this is what I mean.
And it's on my mind.
So, Jeff, you'll be sending me
I'm
for your
going
next
to.
meeting.
Or going to.
And what I normally, what we.
Oh, let's see. Is that that big one you're
I had it perfect. Then I hit a
I think I
button.
might do that because it's kind of mixed up, but the
John's
instructions,
Drapery
they're all in.
Track.
That's okay. It's all pictures anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Quote was all in Japanese.
Good.
I even installed something upside down.
Well, you know that Japan reads vertically, but you have to find everything.
You're not a member of IPMS Canada?
Oh, if
No,
you read
no, I'm
about
not.
Japan,
Just say
you start
N.
from the back.
Yeah, yeah, I have a lot
We
of
got
books that
good
go
keep track
backwards.
of it.
It's very disturbing when you're not used to
Chapter,
it.
we have to have a certain minimum number of weeks.
Sure, yeah.
And so we try to do that.
Okay, that's great. It's really something I know I can.
So that's it. You're good. You're set up. So I'll leave you open for 2023 games here. We're not here yet, but bring it in April.
You know what I'd like to see? Is they have.
It's like, if I had never built a certain.
Yeah.
It's got everything.
I built.
It'd be nice to see you guys that are members, if they could send us the brochure.
When I was a
I
kid.
used to belong to a club.
Yeah.
And but they used to send us an email, a picture of what's going on.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great idea. Because I'm trying to take a picture with it blowing, you know.
Yeah.
And I need glare. And I recently found about one for Detroit, but I couldn't get all the information. And I want to go to that one. I didn't.
The best one.
That's
Oh,
pretty-
yeah, okay. The best, the Hamilton one's the best one.
It is, eh?
They're all.
Because I recently sold those.
I almost haven't got it. I think I've got a really good.
Did it?
That I've had for 20 years.
Yeah. I know. Well, I got 300.
But a lot of them I picked up from guys who are getting.
Yeah, the tractor back. A lot of flat.
Just wanted to.
Not
Not
hanging
them
on.
on.
I'll never assemble.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I almost went out cooking, but I really want to take my time to do it, but I can't get over the chicken. It's that obvious.
Oh, you're not too bad. I had, the one, JSU 152 that I brought last time around. And I found the tracks to get the teeth. I'll send you the groove in between the wheels.
Yeah.
I had to like run a little gander down the inside of the wheel just to widen them out a little bit. I had to have everybody.
Yeah, one part I couldn't get it, nobody else would see it. Facts. Good, good. Back. Yeah. Oh, that would be great, because, yeah, because I just found this guy's going to hobby shows now and ask him now.
Yeah.
Dude,
I
this
cut
would
like
be so nice to have.
when I was done, I covered the tracks with a little bunch of weather, just to hide the traffic.
I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and you'll see all the parts. It's very, very good. Thanks, John. Welcome aboard. I just wanted to check to make sure I paid on the list.
Yeah.
Because I paid by transfer during the last meeting and I. Murdoch. Screwed up. Say again if you want. Pardon? Give Peter a sample card. No, I didn't. But Frank did. We have one new member. That's good. Should be on the list now. You're already paid. And one of your sons is. The other one did. Okay. That's fine. I want to keep it. Nice. It's in the modes. That's the kind of stuff you want to have. Yeah. Last call. Sides are amazing stuff. Not even that. Not even that. That's why.
I think it takes. Very nice. Well, it's nice when you have the stories. I love the stories that go with it. That's what really makes it interesting. Good job. John, how you doing? You're- I am. Fifty draws. Yeah. Fifty draw. That's the one. Yeah, that was Harold. 9, 5, 2, 4, 6, 6. Okay, 6. Yeah, you want the money or the hat? You want the money or the hat? That's so many. You only have one hat. The next one's the hat. Next one is. Yep. Oh, yeah, throw another one out. For the hat, 952-533. 952-533. Anyone? Bueller? Yep. Winner, chicken dinner. Yeah. All right, guys, we're gonna, George is gonna give a demonstration on canopy masking in general. We're pressed for time. Thank you. And shut my hell up. I thought I figured out a way to amplify. I was gonna hopefully find a way to amplify, but it wouldn't work. So, all right. So, all right, guys, take your seats, please. Come on. Did you practice the? Yeah, it didn't work. Didn't work. Eh? I'm gonna. For the people in the back, I'm going to sign. All right, come on, guys. Please, we're pressed for time. Yeah, I'm gonna give you the mic anyway. So you put this on your, you can put it on your lapel. Okay. And for those of you who want to see this later, I will be a recording available on the website.
I can be able to hear it.
I know, we told George to go the phone. So
Okay.
just, you don't have to.
Yeah, sorry for my lower voice, so I beg your attention. Anyway, it was suggested that we spend a couple of minutes talking about canopies, clear plastic, masking, that type of thing. I build primarily 172, and I really gravitate towards bombers. So with bombers, you got a ton of canopy space, turrets, view windows, lots and lots of canopy glass. So what I do may not be what you do, may be better, may be worse. You know, I think everybody learns a little something just by talking about how they do things. So that's really all I'm going to do is talk about what I do. To start off with, you know, typical canopy glass glazed pieces. I learned that if I take my snips and cut it away from the sprue, I can leave blemishes or even cracks in the plastic. So I got myself a little fine razor saw, and what I do is basically saw off the plastic stub so I don't get any damage to it. And then if I have to, I can gently sand that up. So one of these I found was invaluable when working with small canopy pieces. Once I've got my plastic ready to go, the first thing I want to do after I've cleaned it up, give it a good washing, soap and water, let it dry, and then I use the secret sauce, which is Future, which I understand this is hard to get, or they've changed the branding of it. So, pardon me? Yes. So this is the last bottle in Canada, okay? Please do.
Available, but they renamed it.
They've renamed it, eh?
They call it Pledge. It was called Pledge. And now it's gone.
Yep.
Oh, is that right? Okay, that's what I thought.
So with my what I do is once I've cleaned up the canopy piece, I just grab it with some pliers, dip it in my Future, get the excess off, transfer it to a Kleenex, which soaks and sucks up all the extra Future, because sometimes the Future can cool and create a high spot. So you try to just get as much of the extra as you can off. And then once it's in there, I close it up and leave it for 48 hours and don't touch it. And that'll keep the dust off it as well. I've also been, because I heard that Pledge was going, I tried this. This is Aqua Alclad 2 lacquer varnish in Aqua Clear. And this is a part in Future. I find that once you do it in the Future, it does make it glossier and clearer. This is another part done in this. And I don't think you can tell the difference. So I found this works almost just as good as the Future for getting canopies clear. The other problem that can happen with canopies is you may scratch it while you're cleaning it up. Something I did not know to a few years ago is you can polish these back to their original condition. And that's simply by using a series of sanding sticks. This is a set of fine sanding sticks that starts at 1,000 and goes up in increments of 2, ending at 12,000, being the finest. So I just start here. I've used an example here. You probably can't see it. I've scratched the glass, and by going over the glass, starting with 1,000 and just going up the ramp to 2,000. Perfect. Up to 4. 6. And then ended with 12. You can almost see that scratch gone, but now it's time for the rubbing compounds. These are just Tamiya. They make them in coarse, fine, and finishing. So I start off with the coarse. I found a Q-tip works great, but then I found these little sanding foamy blocks.
What's the technical term?
There's the foamy block. Yeah, yeah. Toothpaste would work too. I used to use that.
Better though.
I find this better because I can go from coarse to finishing. So just by using that, and even the coarse almost finishes it off for me. A little bit of water to wash it off. Oops. And you can probably see there that that scratch that I did put there is practically gone. And then if you go into the Future after that, you can probably see that
it'd be tough to see the scratch that was right there on that. Okay. So that's the prep for canopies that I use to try to, get it as clear as I can and ready for work. Once it's dried for a couple of days, it's time for masking. I use 3 different materials for masking. I very recently have started buying them. I don't know how many of you have done this, but you can go online and you can buy specific masking sets for specific planes for specific manufacturers. And they are, to be honest, incredible. If you've never used these, I highly recommend you try them. They save a lot of time. They fit perfectly. They remove very cleanly. Takes a little getting used to positioning them in between the canopy frames, depending on what scale you're working with. But I really like these. Yes, there are. Yeah, Edward is just one of many that do this. Old school is good old fashioned Tamiya masking tape, which I use for canopies with square framed windows in a plane. What I do is I'll just take a piece of tape that I'll either try to measure it, the size of the actual square, to get an idea for how thick it is. And then I'll cut a piece of tape that is that width. And then the trick that Duncan presented last year, which I thought was terrific, was after he's cut his bands of tape very precise, because he does things very precisely. You then cut off a corner. Not the whole square, but a corner, and then fix the corner. And I usually would have to use my goggles for this. But basically, you put a corner piece in. Then you can go around and do all 4 corners of the frame. And then if you still have some gaps in the center, you can just put in a square piece and fill the gap. If the window is long and narrow, like the top ones here, I can get away with literally cutting a thin strip. And if I cut it, correctly, I can just drop it right in there. Not much different than what this is. So that's how I'd work with square framing on a canopy. When it comes to round framing, such as a more modern jet, where a straight piece of tape just won't hug the curve. I have 2 solutions for that I've used and like doing. The first is using Tamiya's flex tape. It's white. It comes in 2 or 3 different thicknesses. I will just, cut out section. And I'll start it at one end. It flexes and you can pull it and it will go into curves. It's also really great if you want to do a hard definition masking of camouflage, where you don't want that, gradual, and you want a hard line. You can make, the circular shapes or whatever you need with this tape and then spray and you'll get a hard camouflage line. But with this, for a canopy with a curve, I'll fix one end and then work my way down to the curve. And as I get to the curve, I'll start pulling and pressing, pulling and pressing, pulling and pressing, making my way around the curve. And the tape will start to bend and buckle a little bit, but it will make the curve. That's a pretty tight curve on this canopy. Now I'd have to work at that a little bit longer, but you can see from there that the tape will go around the curve and you can fix that tape there. The same goes for the upper racing piece. It's a curve, so it doesn't always take well to thin tape. So you can just fix it and work your way around, pulling and fixing, pulling and fixing. And at the end, you'll have that masked. And then with the super sharp knife, you can just make your cut along the frame and cut away the excess. For smaller canopies, where this is simply too big and bulky and doesn't work very well, I'll use bare metal foil. I don't know how many of you are familiar. I know the car guys, this is like God's gift to car guys, I think. I had never heard of the stuff until I saw a trick on the internet do masking with it. So I would just cut out a piece that's roughly the size of what I want my canopy. Say, for example, I want to do it on these because they're very small, and sometimes my tape, I can't get it small enough or it simply won't position correctly. I can put that foil over top of the canopy. I can take just a cotton bud and burnish it down so it fits nice and tight into all the framing. I think you can see that. You can see how it fits down into the framing. And then with a microscope attached to my head, I can take my knife and very, very slowly and carefully set a point against the frame and then draw the knife across the frame all the way around and then peel away the excess. Leads me into my next part. So this will work very well for small areas. Sometimes the area is too small and the adhesive just doesn't have enough to hold on to. But I find the future kind of helps it stick. The only thing I don't like about this is my hands aren't as steady as they used to be, so it is difficult to get a perfectly straight line across the framing. But with this scale, sometimes it goes unnoticed. That's where the tape or the Tamiya tape will always get you a hard line. So if I find when I've cut this down and I have like a little bobble or a warble, that's another technical term, in the line, I'll just take a little piece of tape that's got a nice, square edge and just drop it down and tuck it into the frame and remove that bad cut. Now, removing the tape, actually once that's done, my next step is to paint the canopy the interior color. Now for larger scales, I know you can mask the inside of the canopies, like, the larger scales. But with 172, you'd be drinking a lot. So I basically, once the excess foil is removed, I'll just simply spray paint the mask canopy with the interior color, and it'll show through the glass, and you'll get the illusion that it's been painted on these. Once all the painting's done, it's your decision whether you're going to affix the canopies to the plane and paint, or whether you're going to paint and affix them afterwards. Depends on the model, depends on what you like to do. I do a little bit of both. Once the project is done, with the Tamiya tape, I would just take a sharp cocktail toothpick and find an edge and just work at it until I pull an edge up, and then I can pull the masking tape off the completed canopy. And you can see in this one, I did a bit of both. I used the white tape for the curve, and I used the square Tamiya for the square side. So I used a combination in this example. And then the tape comes off, and we have our finished canopy. With the
foil, it can be a little tougher to get off. I like the toothpick because I haven't really had the toothpick scratch the plastic. But with the foil, the toothpick sometimes is too bulky to get in. So I will then take a piece of sprue and cut it down into a fine chisel shape. And then using that edge, I'll dig in at an edge, and you can see I can scrape the foil off the canopy piece. And then just work my way around the unit. Because it's plastic on plastic, the risk of scratching the canopy glass is pretty minimal. Yes, but if the future's on too thick, it actually leaves a gouge. That's hard to get rid of. So a little patience and care is the order of the day. Now, to your question, Mike, is there glue left? Yes, typically not with the tibia, but the foil, yes. I often will have to remove glue from the canopy. And this is where Goo Gone comes in. I squirt a little bit of it on a Q-tip and just work it into the frame. A little bit of water to clean it afterwards. And that takes it off. No, I work with acrylics and Alclad, and I've never seen this damage or change the colors at all. Now, I've also, after I've painted, I've gloss coated it as well. So it's got gloss coat over all the framing. And then all I'm cleaning is the glass, which just had the future. But it doesn't damage the paint framing that I painted and coated with clear. Okay?
You've used metal foil. I've found everybody else has tried it as well. I ran into it in a magazine article. Five elite, and there's a new paper that Mia has out. Not sure the technical name for it, but very similar to that metal foil that you have.
Yep.
But it's a very, very, very thin paper for masking, and they actually go in with a needle, sewing needle, and you can go in and pick up the fine details. They do all the RAM panels on the F-35. And the guy actually places paper across the whole surface of the aircraft, the F-35.
Yep.
He goes along with a little needle, and he follows all the zigzags for the radar.
Oh, that's how he masks it.
That's how he masks it, and then the back blade go in with foil.
Yeah.
But at least no residue. That's what I've been doing with my canopies and all
Yep.
that. I know I'm going to say the word wrong. The name on the Cloudell hobby.
Yep. Yeah. Wrote it. Yeah. Yeah. They have it.
I saw him there a couple weeks ago. He said, "You get this stuff in." Looked in his book. Yep. He ordered it in, and it comes in a package with 4 sheets. And you can just say when you cut it out, feel it, stick it, go in with a needle, and it'll pick up the very, very fine detail.
Wow.
Any zigzag in its mouth, like F-117
Yeah.
or YF-22.
I can't imagine how thin that is because this stuff is pretty thin. It's pretty thin. Wow. The last thing I want to just spend a moment on while we still have a little bit of time. Sometimes in this scale, the windows are really small. Now, they'll give you canopy pieces to put in. Usually they go in from the inside. So when you go to mask them and take off the tape, you push the window in and it's gone. So I stopped doing that because it always happens. The window goes in from the outside, I got a better chance of saving it. So what I do in this case is I use micro crystal clear, which is an adhesive, but it dries clear. And I take, I thought I brought a paintbrush with me. Well, when in doubt, use a toothpick. By putting a big glob, and it works much better with a paintbrush, and going into the opening, and gently running it around and around the frame until it catches everywhere. it'll do that. I filled the hole. So you fit. Yeah, if it dries clear, it'll work. So you can do this to all these little tiny windows. If you get a little bit on the frame around it, just water in a Q-tip and gently work around it, and you can pull and wipe any residue off. And over the next 48 hours, that'll dry crystal clear, as you can see from this one. It dries almost crystal clear. It's no worse than the canopy glass that fell out. Yes, that's one of the last things I do to the airplane. Is after I've done all my painting and weathering, then I'll put the glass in. This is called micro crystal clear by Microscale. It is pretty much in every hobby store. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yes, it's primarily for gluing canopies because it dries clear and it cleans up with water. Yeah. Any other questions or comments or suggestions for me to do it better next time?
Don't forget. You're cutting your you can get these plastic things with free groove. Let me just clear that one.
Yeah, right. When I'm putting on the mask, I just use my fingers. The Future protects the glass, and then once I've done all my masking, I'll take a Q-tip with soap and water and wash the whole canopy down before I start any painting.
Okay, so what I would talk about today. The whole series is basically 1 centimeter separate, but then the other lines, they slowly go down in gradients. So what I do is I take the Tamiya tape, I put it down, and then I can do cuts that way as well.
It's grooved.
Grooved. It's all grooved so you can cut. And they have stuff for curves and various shapes. This is a bow fighter canopy I'm working on.
That's pretty.
Working on a bow fighter, yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Stuart.
All right.
Is that it? Any questions for George? Yeah.
I thought that was a great presentation and superb camera work by Stuart.
Still get a question.
And they still make Windex.
Oh, don't let it dry. Don't let it dry.
So it's not just for blemish. Yeah.
Oh,
What's
okay,
that?
thank you.
Okay, Kevin, you said you had a, oh, hang on a sec.
No, I just said it was a great presentation and great camera work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Don't tell George, he'll get a fat head.
I can't see his head.
It's taking up most of the room.
Sorry, Bill. Yeah, sometimes for rounded surface canopies, yeah, maybe the frame it.
I do now. The same company that makes this, they do a liquid mask as well. There's a bunch of different companies.
Just be prepared to lose paint.
Yeah, use a disposable brush. Whatever works. Okay. Yep.
Well, we can open the discussion, but we're gonna have to.
Back up. Thanks, guys, remotely.
We'll,
Yep, great meeting. Thank you.
Stuart's already posted the photos. Thanks for the bill.
Thank you. See you guys.
We'll do our Canadian subject sponsored by for our club. We'll get that out to all the members. Thank you very much for coming, everyone. Yeah, Heritage Con in 2 weeks or see you next one.